Hi everyone, my name is Courtney and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm doing my June wrap-up. I think we can all collectively agree that June was a lot. It was a long month with its ups and downs, mostly downs, especially towards the end of the month with the SCOTUS decision. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that, except obviously I am pro-choice. If you are not pro-choice, leave. But today we are going to talk about the books that I read this month. And so for this month I had the theme of queer sport books. I've done a recommendation video, I've done a TBR, and very soon I will have a vlog discussing most of the books that I read this month. So look forward to that if you want even more of my thoughts and opinions while I was reading the books. But yes, I have a pretty heavy stack, so let's get into it. So I've just organized these books in order, so we will go from my least favorite book to my favorite book. So for my least favorite book, I have Fence Striking Distance by Sarah Rees Brennan. This is like a companion, spin-off, inspired novel by the Fence comic book series, and unfortunately I just don't think that the comic transitions well into a prose novel. This just didn't work. The characters felt really stiff and flat and just really awkward in not a fun way. The writing wasn't super great. I've read a novel from this author before and I loved her work, and unfortunately, I don't know, I just did not love this. It did not work for me. And I give it a very generous 2.5 stars, but really it's like a 2-star. It just was not a good book. I just did not enjoy this, and I think I will be sticking with the Fence comic series from now on. I might read the second book because I own it, but I was not impressed by this. Basically, this happens directly after the 4th volume of the comic, and it's following 4 of the main characters, as you see on the cover, and kind of them growing as a team, trying to do like bonding exercises and see eye to eye with each other, and it was kooky in a not really good way. It was a mess. It was all over the place. Going into my next read, I have Cheer Up, Love and Pom-Poms. This is a very short little graphic novel, and this is about Annie, who doesn't have any extracurriculars activities on her like resume for college, and so she is pressured into joining the cheerleading squad, and on the squad is her like ex-friend-ish named BB, who is a trans girl, and so it's a lot of the team coming together, those two characters coming together. It has a little bit of everything, and I think that's the main problem with this story, is that there were too many characters, too many focuses. This story was just trying to cover like too many plot points and too many things, and so while it was cute, while I enjoyed it, it just wasn't necessarily my favorite comic, and I think that it should have been a lot longer and better paced, and so I gave this a 3 stars. The next book I have is The Passing Playbook by Isaac Fitzsimmons, and this is a soccer themed book, and this book is about Spencer Harris, who is a trans boy who at his last school was bullied, so he's transferring to a new school. He's not supposed to join the soccer team, especially the boys team, but of course he is kind of pushed into it, and on the soccer team is a guy who is very interesting to him, and they kind of have this hot cold thing right away. This was really cute. I would say most of this book reads a little bit on the younger teen side, but there are some like bigger make out scenes later on in the book, so I'm not really sure if this book would be appropriate for a younger teen, tween reader. But I enjoyed this. It was cute. I liked all the little family dynamics. I just liked all the little moving parts of this story. I thought there were some things that could have been fleshed out, some questions that could have been answered, but overall it was cute. I enjoyed it, and I gave it a 3 stars. It was just a very solid YA contemporary read, and I would recommend it. It was really good. The next book we have is The Breakaways, which is another comic graphic novel book, and this one is again about a soccer team, and it's mainly following our main character Faith as she's struggling to fit into middle school, but we also kind of dip into other characters' lives, different characters on the soccer team, and just kind of see a snippet of their problems, and I think that's why this graphic novel ended up working for me and why I gave it a 3 stars. I think this graphic novel just did a really good job of like showing a little snapshot of all these different characters, so even though there's a lot of characters and a lot of stuff going on in their lives, just the way that the story was able to like introduce the little snapshot just worked for me. But again, I do think this could have been longer. I really enjoyed the ending of the story and the conclusion, so I would have liked that a little bit more stretched out, a little bit more build up to that situation. But overall, I thought this was good, and I gave it 3 stars, and I would definitely read something else by this author. The next read I have is Icebreakers, and this is a hockey contemporary novel, and it is following a young man who is in his freshman year of college. So if you're looking for a college-age protagonist, this is a great book to read. But Mickey James, our main character, deals with anxiety and depression, and he just feels very isolated. He's not really getting along with his team in college. He's never really gotten along with a team in hockey at all. His only goal is to be the best that he can be so that he can get the first draft pick on the NHL. And because he's 17, he has to go to college for a year until he turns 18 so that he can be drafted. And so it's about him falling in love with another dude on the team that might be his arch nemesis rival. It's about him dealing with his anxiety and depression and his family issues. I think I gave this a 3.75 stars. I really liked it. I really enjoyed our two main characters. I really liked Mickey and the problems he was facing, but this book needed a lot more fleshing out. The beginning sets us in the middle of all this action, of all these problems, and it really doesn't do a good job of introducing Mickey and the team dynamics and kind of how he doesn't fit in. It really quickly skips a bunch of time into the main plot of the novel, and I think this novel would have been more successful if it really showed us Mickey joining the team, him not getting along, him not wanting to get along, and kind of his reasonings for that to get us into the main plot of the story. And unfortunately, the ending also suffered from similar issues where we just really rushed through a lot of time. There were a lot of time skips, and we didn't really get the fleshing out of the end conclusions. I would have loved to see the final hockey game. That was completely skipped in a time skip. It was really hard to rate this book because, again, I liked Mickey, I like his relationship, I really liked the character dynamics, I liked what he was going through, but just some of the pacing just was not there, unfortunately, and this book should have been honestly like 400 or 500 page book, and I would have read it. But yeah, icebreakers. The next book I have is Anna on the Edge by S.J. Sass, and this is a middle grade novel about Anna, and she is transferring to a new ice rink, and there she meets a slew of different people that she has to interact with, but one of these people is a young trans boy, and Anna for the first time is really starting to question her gender identity, especially because she's in such a gendered sport that she doesn't always feel comfortable with. And yes, I gave this a 4-star. I really enjoyed it. This book had a lot of different little plots, and it was able to weave all those storylines really well together. Anna is dealing with the ice rink, with her family problems, with a friendship problem, with this new friendship, and it just was able to weave all those little things together into a really compelling story. This was a middle grade, and it was so fun to read a middle grade again, and I would highly recommend this to anybody. I think it was a really fantastic read, and I think an older person would enjoy this as well. The next book I have is also an ice skating read, and that is Spinning by Tillie Walden, and this is a graphic memoir all about Tillie Walden growing up as an ice skater, basically from the time she's like 12, 13, moving into a new rink, and then I think it goes all the way up to like 17 and getting into college. And so this memoir is really framed around her love-hate relationship with ice skating, around her just being an ice skater and what that meant to her, and like how she grew up around that environment. And I really enjoyed this. I think it was a really successful memoir. I gave it 4 stars. I really love Tillie Walden's art style as well, and just how she creates little comic pages. I think she's really good about color, layout, everything. She just does a really good job, and I really enjoyed this. Again, another book I would highly recommend, but this was definitely my favorite graphic novel of the month. The next book I have is Darius the Great Is Not Okay by Adib Khorram. Book follows our main character Darius as he is going on an emergency trip to Iran with his family, because in Iran his grandfather is very, very sick, and this is probably going to be the last time that they get to see him, and Darius and his sister have never met him in person, only through Zoom, so this is like a big moment for their family, and I really enjoyed this. Darius is dealing with anxiety and depression. He does not really fit into his family. He just has a hard time fitting in at all anywhere. And it's really him getting to connect to his family, both in Iran and his family from America. And I really enjoyed this. It's just kind of, I wouldn't say it's a plotless book, but it's not a book with a lot of high action. It's just kind of Darius going to Iran and just kind of the day-to-day experience that he has there. I just really love this, and I'm really looking forward to the sequel book to this, because I think that book more exclusively talks about how Darius is gay, so I'm just really excited to see the progression of his story. And yes, I gave this a 4 stars. I thought it was an excellent coming-of-age novel, and I really enjoyed it. And then my final read of the month is She She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quindlen. And this book very much feels like a teen rom-com in a novel format. This is following our main character Scotty, who's on the basketball team, and her now ex-girlfriend has joined the rival team on a different school, and to kind of get revenge on her for doing that and for breaking up with her, Scotty decides to date her high school enemy, which is the captain of the cheerleading team, Irene. My camera card is unfortunately full, so I'm going to try and finish this review on my phone. Sorry about that. But this book was really cute, really fun. It has that quirky rom-com kind of feel to it and plot line, and I just really love this. I gave it a 4.25 stars. I love Scotty and Irene. I love their dynamic. I just love the like kookiness of the story. I could just really imagine this as a teen indie rom-com movie. I really hope that Netflix picks it up because I think it's the perfect fit. It just would be really cute and really fun, and I just think that this novel was really expertly able to handle heavier topics like high school bullying and toxic relationships, while again also having that really fun atmosphere of a rom-com story. So I would highly recommend this. It was really cute, really enjoyable, and it might be my favorite read of the month. I'm not quite sure yet, but I am putting it at the top based on star rating for now. But yes, those are all the books that I read this month. If you enjoyed this video, a like or a comment would be very helpful. The algorithm does not like small channels like myself, but I would also just love to talk and interact with you in the comments. But if you'd like to stick around, of course, you can always subscribe as well. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys later, and happy reading.